Chandigarh, UT. Ladies and gentlemen, handing it over to Mr. Vivek Atre to take over for extraordinary leadership.
Thank you, Ritu. Welcome, Ashok. And
thank you, Vivek.
And thank you for that extraordinary introduction, Ritu. I think we're both feeling a little pink behind the ears, having been introduced so gushingly. But Ashok, I'm very excited to be in conversation with you because I was watching a video of yours where I also spoke at a Josh talk. So let's just plunge into this very quickly. Where you said that most of you would be delighted to exchange places with me because I've got a successful career, a fancy sounding job, and it is a big post. And just about maybe 10 years before that, you were probably selling something or the other as a salesman. So the thing being that your life has escalated from level which was not, let's say, very high in the echelons to something which is really sparkling, and you have reached much quicker than I have, because I came from the IAS and drudgery and things, to a stage where your business is also to inspire, and so is mine. So that is where I want to start your thoughts ticking. What do you say to that?
It's I always feel very humbled and grounded with the grace, from God, in fact, that He has helped me grow so much in my career. And I always feel that we are in a position then to inspire and help people become a best version of themselves. I remember, once I met Ronnie Screwvala in an event, and I had a question to him that I said, I'm very contented. I have a great life. I have a lot of money. Why should I keep aspiring for more and more and more? And when do I say it's enough? And his answer to me was, you are in an envious position to now think beyond you and to do something bigger with the power of making more money in order to help others. So he said, why don't you do that? And it stuck like a cord, So overall, I would like to say that we all hustle, everybody has a story. And some of us get a chance to talk about our story in places like Josh Talks, and people get to, know about it and stuff. But I think corporate leaders usually shy away from being very much interacting with, public. I mean, I think we should come out more of it. Recently, I met a content creator, YouTuber, very famous content creator from YouTube, Instagram. And he was saying that, sir, hamare paas zyada content nahi hai. We make a lot of, content, but you have so much of content, but you're not making content. So in summary, I would say that we need to really have a purpose, a broader purpose in helping the world.
Yeah, Ashok, well started. Absolutely true. And I totally agree. I'm going to ask you a question which is relevant to what you said. You talked about God. There's a Harvard study which says that CEOs who meditate are more successful. Those who go within, those who probably work on their inner selves rather than the outer self. So that's something which will get you started now, I'm sure. What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely agree with you. I think I would like to not just pocket it on meditation alone. I would like to say spirituality in general is extremely important. And I don't mean any particular religion. Any religion doesn't matter. See, religion is just giving you a structure on your thought processes, It is a bit like that. So whether you are chanting a prayer, whether you're doing breathing exercises, whether you can sit and meditate, or just being mindful. Mindfulness was the biggest, now it's the biggest fad, I would say, in corporate world. But mindfulness is as simple as how many of us can actually sit and have a meal without watching TV, without watching our phone, and without talking to anyone, just you and your food. That for me is what I practice a lot of mindfulness. I do a lot of chanting. I practice meditation, not half an hour or 1 hour, but I remember starting off at 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, that kind of thing. So I definitely encourage everyone to get into knowing you, like for me, honestly, the Isha Foundation's inner engineering was a big change in my life. I started becoming more calmer and happier. And as a family, we started becoming more happier as a family unit. I definitely recommend people to get into some, and you don't have to become 60 years for that. You don't have to go to temple and have a Rudraksh and start chanting, nothing like that. I really repent why I didn't start when I was 18 or 15 and stuff like that. So to my kids, we're already doing it when they're 7, 8 years old.
Super, Ashok, on the right track. My wife runs a school for toddlers, and they actually have a meditation period of about 1.5 or 2 minutes. That's all they can sit. But they do. And they know that this is meditation time. So they'll close their eyes and they'll look here and there. But they know that this is something to be done. So when you say 18, I wish I had started at 18. I started meditating at 40. I mean, that was pretty late in my life. And I'm very happy that I did whenever I did. But coming to the moot question now, we're talking about extraordinary leadership. What is success for a leader? How can you define it? It's a broad question, but people watching would like to know, what does success mean to you?
Thank you. In the end, you mentioned you, because I was going to say that success for every leader can be different. But for me, certainly, Vivek, my huge inspiration is obsession on people, I would call it. And my biggest goal right now is to create an army of leaders who will go on to achieve success in both their professional and personal careers. And for me, success is that, where when I think about my last day in my career, I want to see that, there's been an array of leaders, army of leaders who have gone on everywhere else, whether within Schindler, outside Schindler. We had the first one last year. One of my direct reports has gone and joined as a CEO in another listed company, Swiss company, multinational company for India. And I was very happy when he told me that he wants to resign. And he was shocked. He thought I'm going to be very upset. I said, no, I'm really proud that you're the first leader in my army. I'm going to start with this line and there's going to be many more. So for me, success is being selflessly helping others succeed to a point where one day you are prepared to become a staff to that staff of yours.
Super, super. Very well said. Why this resonates with me more is because I attended a talk by John Buchanan, who was the coach of the Australian cricket team a few years ago, more than a few years. He said, I want the 11 players or 14 players to function without the coach. He says the guy should know what to do. He doesn't need me. Only when I'm needed. There are 11 leaders out there playing. He says, only when I'm needed, they should come to me. A leader who can create leaders is a successful leader, no doubt, as you said it. But India, and let's talk about Schindler India also. Where do we find these skills in the young and not so young? Nobody's teaching them that in college or school. Our people who are coming into their work life, let's say a software developer, very good at coding, 5 years, he's only coding, suddenly becomes a team leader. He doesn't know how to get the best out of his team. How do we prepare leadership, Ashok?
Vivek, I must just quote you my own example. I joined Schindler as a quality engineer, right, at 26 years old. I started very late in my life. I started working. And then 28, and I was a single person department, right? It was only me. I was doing quality audits and Kaizen improvement projects. Then suddenly when I was 28, my boss said, we wanted to go and become the head of general manager for Queensland, which was second largest business for us in Australia. And that time, I never had a people management experience, never had P&L background, never had even met customers and sold a lift. And I was paranoid. I thought this guy must be crazy. Why is he giving me this job? I'm going to be, failing. But he had an innate ability to see through people. And now he's still my mentor. I actually asked him this question recently. I said, why did you do that? He said, I just felt that you will swim through this and you will be a great leader. So one side is how can organizations prepare? So if you ask me, I jumped into it and I only wanted to make him proud. So I did a lot of self-study, self-learning. Until today, I keep telling people, like a lot of people complain that I didn't have a good induction, I didn't have a good training, so I'm quitting the company. I'm like, everything cannot be told as well, number one. That is, of course, the utopian part, which I still recommend people that don't wait for the organization to do it. Some organizations cannot do it. There may be a mid-sized organization, there could be a startup. In other way, I think, of course, that L&D itself, learning and development itself, is a huge department in many organizations, and especially Indian companies like Tatas and Birlas and Mahindras do a great job, I can tell you, better than the MNCs. I was shocked to see the amount of money they spend on grooming talents and leaders. So organizations do have to go with the regular path of leadership programs and things like that. So we have, for example, first-time manager program where we train them, and a whole lot of other training programs. But trust me, the kind of absorption that happens, it's very, very small. I don't personally think that you can send somebody for a training program and then he's saying, "Now I'm a ready leader." It doesn't work like that. What would work is maybe giving them some basic theory. Yes, that's a good thing, but it has to go with ongoing, regular mentoring support on a regular basis. So we do that. So we have monthly mentoring programs with these new managers, and so they are observing us how we behave, and then we observe them, and then we give them feedback. And we also then have a closed loop, which is the young manager surveys and all that. So we make sure we're getting inputs from the staff, how things are going. So I would say that is how we need to prepare the future generation. But also we need to make sure that the future generation is not only, most youngsters, they're only looking at the package. It's a campus thing, right? Campus placements, get the highest package. There's a lot of ooh-ha-ha and all that. But it's not about what you start your salary with. It's really what you gain in terms of knowledge and experience, and what salary you can make 10 years later. So to level up the leaders, these people also have to be ready. Most of them want to become a manager, but they don't want to put the efforts to be the best manager. That's what I would say.
Yeah, Ashok, absolutely correct. You see, when you are on your journey, you have to be the example. Whatever you say to people is not going to be digested in training programs or workshops, even though I conduct workshops myself on emotional intelligence. So I'll tell someone that scold someone in private, praise someone in public. Very simple rule. People don't get it. If you scold someone in front of the junior, he's not going to worry about the scolding. He's worried about why was so-and-so present, because he's feeling, demeaned like that. These basic people skills are lacking often. But we have to be the example as you are. So you don't look more than 28 much. You said 28, you became a leader, and now also you're about 29, I guess. But the point is that you have learned the ropes very quickly on the job. You never knew you had it. So what is it that you do in terms of self-development and maybe becoming an even better leader and going forward? What are you looking at?
Vivek, I am a very, very obsessed. So I come from quality background, right, which is about continuous improvement. And I didn't realize that it becomes part of my life. So every day I am wanting to beat myself from the previous day. It's even as simple as a management meeting, right? Every monthly management meeting, I want to do it better than the previous meeting. I will always bring some new element, something that my team is not expecting. I don't want them to come and say, "Hey, this is another meeting." I want them to say, "Wow, this meeting was different than the last meeting." So they are all looking forward to have these meetings, for example. So that is what I think has made me always excel in what I'm trying to do, because I'm curious to make sure that I call it, I have framed a word which has now become like my tagline in all my social media channels, which is called chasing obscene success. And what I mean by that is, how can I do something that creates awe in myself? That is what I mean by that. So even if I'm sending an email, how can I do it in a way that it creates awe to myself? I think if we can all beat ourselves, our own benchmarks, not Sharmaji's son, not Anu auntie's daughter. Doesn't matter what is happening in your neighborhood or what is happening in your colleague's life. This comparison has to stop, number one. Number two, beat your own records. Make sure that you are making yourself proud every day. Then you make others proud. That is another different matter. That is the key.
Yeah, I saw your tagline on your LinkedIn page, the chasing obscene success. So I was, being a writer myself, I was mulling over the word obscene. I was thinking what word could have been better. But then I said, maybe it gets the picture across, and why not? Why not? So this is the era of using words like disruptive in a very non-disruptive manner, in a positive manner. You get things like the woke generation, which is woke means not that you are awake, but woke means that somebody who's with it and who's the millennial, that kind of thing. So different things are happening. But Ashok, a lot of leadership happens offline, not at work. So what is it that leaders like you do, or what do you do in your day, which is remarkable, different, which people might be surprised to know? Share some insights. I mean, what is it that makes you take so much?
I think one of the things that surprises everyone is how actively I engage with my team on social media and internally as well. So, November 2019, I started something called Monday Mornings with Ash. It started off as an email that I send to all the employees every Monday morning, and I talk about the week. It started off with five. I had five subheadings. What I'm sad about, what I'm happy about, what is keeping me energized this week, a fun hack I want to share, the book I'm reading. And then I started doing in seasons, right? Every 4 months is a season. So after 4 months I take a break of 2 months, and then I start season 2, season 3, season 4. Every season I tried improvising. So first season was email, second season was an audio file, third season was an audio file with the music, and now I have started doing YouTube videos, live, like videos with the with my face and everything. And this is connecting with all the 5,000, including all my factory workers, all my technicians, which forms the biggest population. And everybody is encouraged to write back to me. And it has really transformed the way they could communicate with the top management of the company and tell me what is going on in their work life and personal life. I actively, you would find me calling 4 levels below, 5 levels below randomly, a person just to check on how they're doing, what are they doing, what are they, what are they working on. And like I mentioned, like I would be very active on my Facebook and Instagram, where I meet a lot of my own employees, right? They don't get access to me because they're scared. What will my boss think if I talk to the CEO?
Yeah.
And of course, many a times they try to misuse me as well. But I'm a bit smarter than what they think. I don't really believe everything they say, so I try to filter the information and things like that. I think accessibility of me to people has is been one of the biggest offline things that I do, and sharing of this, going beyond work stuff. So the Monday mornings are more sharing to make them a better person. Like last week, I did a video on the 5 best books I suggest for them to read. The next one will be on how to handle stress during COVID times, certain tips and all that. So that's one of the things I can specify amongst many others.
Super, Ashok, you're going to get all motivational speakers and others out of jobs because you are going to do all the motivating and the workshops, and the topics you are choosing are absolutely brilliant. Because I was going to ask you, what are the 5 books that you're going to recommend? Or I was going to say some books that you recommend, which you have read, which are really life-changing, and also add to the books whether you are planning a book of your own. Because I feel everybody has a story to tell, and videos are great, everything is great, but a book in printed form or even digital form is a lasting comment on your life and learning. So what is your plan?
I think, Vivek, it's a bit too early, I must say. I think maybe in the future. In fact, I made a poster, with this Chasing Obscene Success, and people actually thought it was a book. I think even Anshuman or someone had messaged me saying that, are you releasing a book or something, So I said, not yet. Or thoda experience chahiye, I have to still learn the world. But yeah, I think it will be good to document. I think you rightly said, everybody has a story, and we shouldn't feel shy about it. And one of the things I've always shared, Vivek, is that every one of us is a brand, whether we like it or not. When I ask someone, hey, do you know Vivek Atre? How is he? The few words they describe is your brand. Now, if you don't market yourself, you can't have a marketing manager for yourself, right? I often say this, like, who is your marketing manager? It is you. So you shouldn't be shy to market and brand yourself for the right reason, not for, being self-boasting and all that. And it comes across if you do it with all genuineness.
Yes, Ashok, and which leads to, it's a very fluid conversation we're having. It's flowing very well, and we're absolutely on the ball as far as time is concerned. We still have 10 minutes to go. But we have a couple of questions also already, which I'll ask you soon from the audience. But I want to ask you about work-life balance. You did say, the balanced growth and development of a person. You do interact with your teams on social media. And obviously, we need to distance ourselves from social media at times. Need to take out that me time. You spoke about mindfulness. So how does it work? Do you find at times that your life is overburdened, overstressed? Is your mind free enough to talk to your family? And do you spend time with them? How do you balance your life?
Vivek, I don't know if it's a God's blessing. I am a very stress-free person, and I don't think things bother me so much because I realize that things that are not in my control, I just cannot do anything about it. I just have to go with the flow, right? I do my best. What I've always done, and a hack that I can share with everyone, when I get into a situation which is very difficult, a stressful situation, I try and take the problem and keep it outside in a table mentally, and I look at the problem. I think of it as an MBA case study, and I design a business plan, right? If this is a problem in a case study I'm getting in an interview or an MBA class, how will I solve this problem? And then I go about solving the problem. So that is the kind of the narrow answer for a specific issue. But on a broader terms, I don't work long hours, right? I start my day at so I wake up very early. I wake up at 4:45. I'm a morning person, so I have my morning routine of mindfulness practices, my exercise. So I do 45 minutes of weight training, normal in the gym if it is open. If not, I do at home with some dumbbells and stuff. And then I finish. I start work at 8:30 and I'm back home at 5:30. I don't like fixed meetings in my calendar beyond 5 o'clock. In fact, even 4 o'clock, I would say. And every day, this time, which is between 6 and 8 o'clock, is my family time. I usually go play with the kids and all that. So it's I think it's such a mindset thing. You don't have to pretend that you're working long hours. It's a very buzzword, right? Oh, I'm so busy. मैं तो 3 घंटे ही सोया. People think it's very trendy to say all these things. And I think it's complete humbug, right? I mean, you should be proud to say that I only work 9 hours and I'm actually home at 6 o'clock and I'm having my family time. See, in my role, of course, I cannot shut my phone down completely because you could have an emergency entrapment of a person in a lift or somebody is, having a safety issue. I'm available on phone, but I have my time.
No, it's super. I am very impressed with your poise. Actually, I've been in the IAS and I've seen very powerful people. I've seen very busy people. I've seen corporates, I've seen government, I've seen academics. The rare quality of calmness, which is in your mind being uncluttered. And it probably comes from that habit of mindfulness and meditation, waking up early. And waking up, you wake up much earlier than I do. And it's fantastic to know that you do that and then you start afresh. I bet when you email somebody early morning, the guy doesn't feel too happy about it, or he doesn't get to respond very early. In fact, in one of my talks, I speak about the fact that if your boss emails you at 7 in the morning, you don't need to email back at 7:01.
Correct.
I mean, think about it, mull over it, take an hour or two, get to work, and then email. So if Ashok emails to Schindler's employees, email him later in the day, okay?
Correct. So, no, I even mentioned them, that I am a morning guy. Don't worry about it. I just want to not forget. So I'm sending you an email, but please reply at your leisure. Absolutely. Otherwise, people get paranoid.
Absolutely. That's what paranoia is, something which overthinking, is something which is destroying our peace. And especially with this, I didn't want to use the P word, but the P is on and we are all overthinking, ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega and everything. But let's come to a couple of interesting questions from the audience before we come back to our conversation a little bit. So there's Ayush Bajaj, a youngster, who's saying that when you take so many decisions as a leader, do you take most of your decisions intuitively or do you research before taking a decision?
So my decisions are a lot depending on my team, right? I ask for advice from my team and what they propose. And then based on the facts presented to me, I will take a call. There is always an intuition combined. It depends on the decision, right? Like, for example, in interview, there is a lot of intuitiveness in that when you interview a candidate. But if you're taking a decision on expansion, growth, profitability, it is a data-backed decision. So I keep saying, data is a new oil, and don't miss that amazing wealth in front of us. Use the data and use a little bit of common sense, which is intuitiveness as well.
That's a very good point. And then Ayush has another supplementary. He says that what is the time when you feel that you've done enough towards a particular goal? Is there a limit? And then you say that, okay, now I surrender and leave the rest to the Almighty. Also, it could be a personal goal or any other goal.
I don't think you can say that for surrendering to Almighty on a goal, right? For example, I lost 12 kilos during lockdown last year. I didn't say that, I will exercise and then I will leave rest to God. No, I was tracking everything. So, I mean, if it's only not in your control, there are things not in your, for example, the P work going on right now, pandemic going on. I'm not going to be worried about it every day, how many cases are happening and all that, right? It's not in my control. But what I can do is make sure that I put all the precautions in place for me and my team and enforce that. That is what gives me the comfort that I can control and if I can make sure that people are following these things, they'll be safe. So that is how I take decisions.
Right, good point. And Sahil Jagya is saying that there are times when you feel listless, don't feel like doing anything. Are there times like that? Are there moments when you feel that today I just don't want to work? Or is there never such a moment with you?
No, I will have such moments of not doing anything. I wouldn't say anything, right? Like maybe I don't feel like going to office or I don't feel like that particular thing that I want to do. Then I will divert my mind to something else. But I quickly rebound back. I'm a very quick person that way. I don't sit on things and get it killed.
Good. And one of the last questions from the audience is Arun Sharma, who's saying networking is very important nowadays, and we are at the forum of Vibrant Networking Forum here. How important is networking, and is it a skill that can be developed? Has it helped you in life?
Oh God, I'm very famous for this, to be honest. In fact, if people watch my Ranveer podcast on Beer Biceps, or if they watch my recent reels on Instagram, I've spoken a lot about it. Yes, networking is hugely important. I personally attribute my career trajectory to grow so fast because of networking. I made sure that I did great job, number one. That is a basic fundamental. You can't talk the talk. You got to walk the talk. Once I made sure that I'm doing great work, I made sure that the right people know about it. And when the right people knew about it, I was getting promoted. So I used to get blamed, you're putting yourself, you're promoting yourself too much and all that from people who are not able to grow. But I was saying, that's why I so told you, I'm my brand manager, right? Nobody can brand me more than me. So I don't have any shame on that. And if people feel ashamed, I'm so sorry, but I can only feel pity for you. If you're jealous of me, rather, why don't you, compete with me and win? It's as simple as that.
No, building your personal brand and doing it in subtle, even unconscious ways is the way to be. I also speak on this, and it's absolutely true that there is no point in doing a great job if you're not able to highlight it and showcase it to the people who matter. There's no harm in being pretty upfront about that. And in fact, General Jacob used to be the governor of Punjab when I was in the administration, Chandigarh. He said, today it's not the survival of the fittest alone. It's the survival of the slickest. And he was 80 years old. He understood that being slick, stylish, presenting, networking, and being out there to the reasonable extent when you have content as well is what it should be like. So totally. One last question, Ashok, we are coming to the end, but of course you'll have another opportunity to share anything you like after that. But my last question to you is that if you can highlight any one anecdote, incident, or something which was either hilarious or hair-raising or memorable from your life, apart from that call you got from your boss that you're going to become a leader now, anything that you'd like to share which is quirky or funny or anything else?
Wow. I can share a hiring hack that happened, right?
Okay.
So when I recruited my executive assistant, I was looking for an executive assistant. This was like a year and a half ago. I was flipping through Facebook and I saw that somebody had posted a video on Indian School of Business. It's a promotional video for ISB. This particular young gentleman was talking about ISB and I was super impressed about him. I went and looked him up on LinkedIn, added him, and within half an hour, I was on a call with him offering him the job.
Okay.
And he just said, sorry, Ashok, but I want to remain where I am, but I would like to really find an EA for you because you've been such an amazing person. I mean, I can't believe that, a CEO of a company is calling me, blah, blah, blah. Right. So then he managed to get a few people, resumes and stuff. And we shortlisted 2 people. One candidate I really liked. I interviewed him on the, he was in Noida, I was in Mumbai. So we had a video call. Then he told me that Friday, that week, he was flying to Mumbai to meet his girlfriend. So I told him, I said, why don't you come and join me? I'm taking my young team out for a drink. And I don't know whether he was aware, but it was actually an interview as well in my mind. I wanted to see him, how is he in a different setting. So we, went to Kamla Mills, we went to a nightclub, we partied hard. And this guy was just shocked, right? This is like the CEO of the company is, grooving into music with me and all that. And I got my whole team as well, like my young team as well. So, it was like me selling him the company and me also observing how does he behave in an informal environment.
Yeah.
And finally, he came on board and he became my EA. But I find it, he often tells that my boss hired me from a bar. And literally, that's what happened,
Bar and bahar, not in the premises bar. Ashok, your closing remarks on what should young men and women look forward to for tomorrow? I mean, how should they build their careers? In an unpredictable world, which is always there, should they be scared? Should they be timid? Should they be confident? Should they be calm? What are your tips for them?
Certainly, please get into a spiritual mode and try to work on yourself as a human being, as a personality, because that will take you for forever in life. It will build you as a character. Second part, so you have to be calm, you have to be composed for sure. Second part is don't chase status, but chase wealth. When I mean wealth, is not just the money wealth, but also knowledge and the kind of way you do your things, which makes you more wealthier in all forms. Once you do that, status will automatically come. Don't look for the best paying job. If I am starting my career, I want to work for a company which has a great work culture and a great boss who will care for my development more than his own personal development. So choose the right boss, choose the right culture. Even if your salary is low, doesn't matter. You will really pick up and start running. The third point is every day should be better than the previous day, where you're comparing only with yourself and not with anybody else. Don't try to run anybody else's race. Run your own race and make it as fast as possible. But the fourth element is really when you start getting onto the spiritual life, you will start getting contented. So start finding gratitude in whatever you're doing. I think every one of us should have a lot of gratitude. Today, if anybody is watching this video, they must have gratitude that their parents have paid for an internet, they have a laptop or a PC or a mobile. They have, blessed universities providing education, teachers. Let us really be grateful to what we have and just stop complaining, which seems to be a trend for us on anything, right from A to Z. It is Modi's problem, it's my parents' problem, it is, my professor's problem. It is like everybody else's problem except your problem.
Yeah.
So why can't we own our problem? Then these youngsters will start growing much faster.
Brilliant. I think these thoughts which you summarized at the end are absolutely spot on and absolutely in sync with my thinking, at least, and I'm sure with a lot of the people's thinking. My last funny comment is that when I posted, Vibrant Forum posted our poster, and they probably saw your designation with Schindler. So one friend asked me, is he going to talk about Schindler's List? So I'm sure you're bored of this joke, but do you often get...
But thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashok. Lovely. And let's keep in touch and you keep inspiring people. Fantastic to have had you here.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you so much for having me.